Good morning. I guess it's time to talk about me since I've talked to other people about what calling is to them. Um, it's kind of a difficult situation with me because ever since I was in the fourth grade, I always had kind of a passion for writing, and I always felt that it was important to be a writer. I think the most important part of everything for me to know about was the need to write and the need to tell the story. I see all these people who write and they write and they write and they write and they write, but they never really tell the story the way they need to. So, you know, I guess you could say that in the long run, they miss the point of what writing is all about. Whether it's writing a song or a poem or a story or a novel, any of it, even an orchestra it all tells a story, and to tell that story you have to be willing to give up absolutely everything to tell that story. Now, I talk about the story behind my newest novel as being the backdrop for why I tell many of my stories. Since my son's birth in 2003, I have found that there are many reasons for me to continue to tell stories. I like to talk to my son quite a bit. His way of communicating is through story, is through communications. He never really is in doubt of himself. This last weekend when I got him for Easter, or no, actually it was before that. It was the week before that. We were talking just before we went home. We had decided to sit and talk for just a few, so that they didn't feel like they were being left out. And we were talking about what Noah calls hover pods. And his imagination allows him to put so much detail into his creation that you would wonder what would come next. For me, that feeling comes all the time. You know, I when I write something, it's what's gonna come next. Do I know what's gonna come next? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Right now I'm working on a piece about, well, literally about the end of the segment that's brought up in the Keeper of Time. A lot of people don't realize that there are 3 books to this series, mostly because I haven't talked about that yet. But yes, there are 3 books to the series so far, and I want to get it straight. I want to tell the story as it was. And so I'm busy here telling the story as I can, and trying my best to do the story from Noah's perspective. And not only Noah, but Natalie got in on this conversation. That's both my son and my daughter there. We were sitting here just in the dining room waiting till it was time to leave, and we were discussing this, and that's what we discussed. It was almost intense, because I had no idea where it was going to go, or how it was going to go where it was going. But I knew that in the end, we had to figure out what went where and how it happened. I have to believe that there is something more to who we are than just simply people out there on strings, just going from one place to the next. Now, I've been reading a book, The Art of Work, and it talks a lot about that. It talks about how people wander from job to job to job, and we forget that there is a reason for us to be here. We have to be called, and our calling is complex. As you've heard Travis and Steph say on this before, a calling is complex, but at the same time, it's not as complex as they'd like to make it. It's complex in the fact that it would hold us back if we didn't give in, if we didn't follow. Now, the reason I went to the two of them to talk to them was because they opened a store pretty much on a whim. It's a music store here in town, and it's nothing quite like it here in this town, and there's never been anything quite like it here. But you have to remember that there are people who aren't going to accept the new, who are going to push for the old. Change is not good. Change is bad. Change is everything but good. I just recently, went through one of those changes myself, and it truly is one of those things for me. I don't know how I managed to make it through the way I did without some people really backing me up. But I walked through life step by step, trying to show myself that there was something else in the picture. I had to prove to myself that I could write. I had to prove to myself that, yeah, I could take that old story that we hadn't worked on, we hadn't done anything with, and I could still bring it up to date, and I could still make it work. Do I know whether it worked? I have no idea. Do I have copies of it left? Yeah. What am I going to do with them? I don't know yet. It's all a matter of perspective, I guess you could say. But calling is definitely something that I take seriously. And I point to one story in particular in my life that really shows that I was listening to calling. That was when I was a freshman in college. I had gone over to Olivet. That was where I was going to school. And I was getting more and more discouraged the longer I was there. I wasn't doing well in classes. I wasn't doing well with people. I was struggling to get along with people. I was struggling to find a common element, so to speak, to work with people. And it was difficult for me. And so when I started talking about not returning, people go, Well, you've got to return. It's your calling to be here. And I turned to him and I go, no, it was my calling to be here this year. And a lot of people didn't understand that I wasn't called to be there all 4 years. I was only called to be there just for that little bit of time. Just for this simple little 1 year period of time. So it upset a lot of people. And a lot of people quit talking to me. But I have to say, in the end, it all worked out for the best. I am where I am now because of where I've been. And I would say that I'm still following my calling, and my calling is going one step at a time. And if I can help anybody else, I would gladly do it. So for now, I'm going to go. But if you have questions, feel free to leave some on my email, or just drop a line on my feedback page. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Good night.